So we're gonna start transitioning into the second question, which is, what do the students, or does the student understand? It might be helpful to use conditional language, like they might or they perhaps. But if you see other things that you want to notice, like referring back to the description part, you can notice as well.
I'm actually going to notice something also that brings up a question for me. The little table in between the equations and that visual representation up there, the first day's temperature was 11 degrees. And I don't actually know how this works. I don't do my math this way. But I'm assuming you've got 11 degrees minus 15. Okay, but in the subsequent equations below, the answers on the right, does it seem like they're flipped to you guys also? Am I wrong?
Can you,
Okay, so temperature on the left as 11, change on the right minus 15. But in the following two, you've got what she identifies to be temperature on the right. Am I
But
right?
I see what you're saying, but I actually think that she's just always putting the positive number on the left and the negative number on the right.
Which is why I said I didn't know exactly how these
no,
work.
I think that's.
But they are different.
Yeah, you're totally right.
I don't know what to make of it.
Okay, so I think.
No, I have no idea what it means.
So Sarah, can you explain what you see that's a similar interpretation but a little different?
Consistency.
Sure. So I mean, I didn't do math, but my understanding is that like sometimes when you do like positive negative numbers with kids, you would have like dark colored chips, right? So you say, oh, I have like 5 red chips, those are positive, and like 3 black chips, those are negative. And so this is sort of like tallying the number of positive numbers I have and tallying the number of negative numbers I have. That's how I
That
interpret it.
makes some sense also.
The thing that I was sort of saying earlier, but it's during the descriptive time, so it wasn't appropriate to say, was that I don't really know how like tallying, like keeping track of how many positive numbers I have and how many negative numbers I have, then leads for me or the student to make like a number line. I don't understand the connection. Like I understand that these are 2 different methods for adding and subtracting negative and positive numbers, but I don't understand how they relate to one another. I don't see the connection.
Okay. So you might say that the student might understand several methods, but you're wondering whether they see the connection between them, or whether there is a connection.
Right. Or like, did making this table help the student and then make the number line, or vice versa?
I interpreted this multiple presentation of how he or she derived the answer as a very close following of the explanation, show or explain. And in a sense, what I interpret is the student might be trying to cover all bases. I'm going to show you all the ways I know to get me to my answer.
I'm interested in trying to figure out how this word distance relates to the work that the student showed at the top. And so, for me, I'm interested in whether that word distance relates more to maybe the graph than the other pieces. And then that, for me, is really interesting when we're thinking about Sarah's question of, was that graph necessary for the student to understand the mathematics of what was going on? Does that make sense?
To me, I think this is what you're saying, like distance, because like I can see distance really clearly in this like number line representation. It's like you're seeing like how many spaces apart 2 numbers are, and whereas like you don't see distance represented in the other.
Right. And I think looking at this piece, looking at the mathematical piece, I don't see distance there, and I don't know whether or not the student needs these pieces. So it's kind of like the language of distance is still there, even though the visual representation is maybe not necessary.
So maybe to translate that into an interpretation, you're thinking that the distance, or into an understanding, the distance is something they understand, the number line. That might be how they understand the problem. Or you see a connection between number line and distance.
Right, okay.